In the typical fundamentalist and orthodox religions, demons are said to be the worst entities that you can possibly deal with spiritually. However, in mystical, spiritual, hermetic, and Gnostic religions, demons are not that bad in comparison to what's actually out there in those religions. See, the reason why this is the case is because in spiritual and mystical religions, there are more beings that are said to exist in the spirit realm that go beyond just the typical orthodox and dogmatic angels, demons, jinns, and ghosts. So, who are these entities, and who are the three entities that I'm going to be listing that are worse to deal with than demons? Most importantly, why are demons not the worst of the worst to deal with? So the reason why demons are not the worst entities to deal with is because both mystical and orthodox religions agree that demons are purely infernal and chaotic beings. And it is because they're purely chaotic that is actually their weakness as beings. Because demons, if you are an advanced enough magician, can be manipulated to do your will. A shining example of an S-tier magician that was able to manipulate demons with their magic was King Solomon. King Solomon was said in both biblical and Quranic traditions to have manipulated demons to help him build the Temple of Jerusalem and be a part of his army too. So with this in mind, and with the story of King Solomon in mind, this led a lot of mystical and spiritual thinkers to believe that demons aren't the worst people in the food chain. But who are? Well, the Ikhwan as-Dahab, also known as the Brethren of Gold in English, is proud to present 3 entities worse than demons. The purpose of this video is to serve as a broadening and expansion of people's spiritual horizons on what exists in the spirit realm and what to be wary of. Most importantly, it is to transcend heavily dualistic thinking, such as angels good, demons bad, that's it, locked in, nothing less, nothing more. So, with that being said, let's move on and let's start with the third worst entity to deal with spiritually than demons. So yes, this video will be in respect of order, meaning it only gets worse from here, folks. So the number 3 contender on this list is shadow beings. The second dimension, also known to many spiritual practitioners as the realm of shadows, is a realm in where many black magicians practice shadow magic, and also a place in where the unconscious mind is said to reside in. Native to the second dimension and made out of the shadowy substance of the second dimension are shadow beings. When one travels through the second dimension, through either astral projection, meditation, or dreaming, one can incur and get latched onto by a shadow being. So what makes shadow beings in particular harder to deal with or worse to deal with than demons, even though they may not necessarily be evil or chaotic per se? So what makes shadow demons worse to deal with than demons lies within the nature and the place of the second dimension. First of all, when you're in the second dimension, you're in the shadow being's playing field. So because you're in their field of expertise and in their field of familiarity, they can take advantage of you and play in a place in where you may not know the ins and outs of. Most importantly, not saying that all demons are bombastic and don't conceal their presence, but typically speaking, if you're a clairvoyant, clairaudient, claircognizant, or even clairsentient, one can actually sense and identify a demon in their presence. Meanwhile, with a shadow being, it's a little bit more difficult to sense and find where a shadow being is and what they're trying to do with you. So because of the ambiguity, mystery, and unconscious nature of shadow beings, this is ultimately what makes them more challenging to deal with than demons, because demons can be banished through many different banishing rituals, such as the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. However, shadow beings may not necessarily be banished through those means and can also be harder to deal with in general. Moving on to number 2, these being trickster spirits. Generally speaking, when people say that they made a deal with a demon, or that a demon came to them in disguise of a light or high vibrational being, in many cases, these may not have been actual demons that they were dealing with. Rather, these were trickster spirits. You see, trickster spirits are beings that exist in all forms of spirituality and can also feed off of your naivety, lack of knowledge, childishness, and overall cockiness and overconfidence as an individual. Trickster spirits' main targets are people who are solitary practitioners. Solitary practitioners are people who do not practice spirituality with a system, house, or congregation or community to help back them up and give them verification for their experiences. So because a lot of people nowadays are becoming solo in their practices of spirituality, this is what ultimately makes them more victim and more prone to being attacked by trickster spirits. Another issue on why trickster spirits are harder to deal with than demons is that many trickster spirits are actually in pantheons. For example, Hermes and Loki are actually trickster spirits and are venerated and given energy by many practitioners. So what this can end up doing is, if you are friends with somebody who works with a trickster spirit, they can unintentionally, without them realizing it, have the trickster spirit attack you and trick you and come to you in the form of an entity that you want to work with. So because trickster spirits are a wild card and very difficult to deal with in general, and many people give energy to them and more power to them than demons do, this is ultimately what makes trickster spirits a worse matchup than demons. Now, let's move on to the final entity that is worse than demons. What is it? My number one pick for entities worse than demons is the Dark Lords. In Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, Paul for the most part says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers over darkness of this world, and wickedness in spiritual high places." So, who is Paul referring to in this scripture in general? Well, in specific, Paul is referring to the Dark Lords. Who in the world are the Dark Lords? The Dark Lords are morbid, humanoid, possibly if you want to even call them human, creatures that essentially run, subjugate, control, and dominate the third dimension and the wheel of time that runs the third dimension. You see, Dark Lords have found a way to cheat the system so they can keep returning here and keep coming back in forms and where they can continue to run the third dimension. Remember how earlier in the video I said how if you're a good enough magician, you can conjure and manipulate demons to do your will and bidding? Well, Dark Lords have been around for a very long time. And essentially, this is what ultimately makes them way, way, way worse than demons. Because Dark Lords are magicians like us, and they can cast demons onto us. They can cast demons, they can conjure demons, they can summon demons. They typically manipulate and subjugate demons to their will, and they ultimately run and give demons a run for their money. And because Dark Lords are so powerful, and most importantly because they're physical beings and not spiritual beings like demons, this is what ultimately makes Dark Lords one of, if not the worst entity to deal with in a demon. If you ever somehow see a Dark Lord and you know for some reason it's a Dark Lord, you need to run. Do not be a hero. Do not try to challenge them. Do not try to merge with them. Do not try to negotiate with them. Do not try to convert them to the light. Do not try to be a hero and try to save them. They're set on their ways, and they ultimately serve the chaos and the darkness probably even more better than a demon can. And because of this in general, this is why Dark Lords are such a pain, because we don't deal with them head on, but we deal with them subconsciously and indirectly, and technically directly too, through the system that we live in as human beings. All of the system that we live in. And again, many different conspiracy theorists will say that this type of people are the Dark Lords, or that type of group is the Dark Lords, or this type of race is the Dark Lords, or that type of race is the Dark Lords. But I'd rather not get into that or point fingers or make accusations. However, the government of Dark Lords essentially subjugate and control all the things and all the systematic parts of the 3D that is dark and evil. And because of that, the Dark Lords are, like I said in conclusion, way, way, way worse to deal with than demons. Please, I am begging you at the bottom of my heart, if you ever are a spiritually prominent person, if you ever rise to stardom, if you ever rise to any sort of recognition, and you get confronted by a Dark Lord, run, seek refuge, pray to God that you will survive. Because once the Dark Lord is lashed onto you, or once the Dark Lord has his sights on you, it's very, very difficult to essentially escape them. In fact, a friend of mine even told me that the opposite of the Dark Lords, the 36 saints that run the physical realm in Jewish mythology, one of them actually got murdered by a Dark Lord in the 90s. So essentially, the Dark Lords have been making moves and will possibly make a huge move in the near future, if I'm not mistaken. What that move is going to be, I don't know. I'm not a Dark Lord myself. Or am I? And there you guys have it, folks. The 3 entities that are worse than demons. So in summary, the 3 entities that are worse than demons are shadow beings, trickster spirits, and Dark Lords. So for the most part, what have you guys learned? What have you guys understood? And what have you guys garnered from this video in general? If you guys would like to see more content, more videos, and more products like this, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And be sure to share a video with a friend, because any support that you guys send in this video really helps to spread the message of the Ikhwan Astahab, or the Brethren of Gold. So, my name is Kenny. Many people just call me Ken. And I am out. Peace.